So here we are in C. What you're looking at in this room is basically the inside of George Massenburg's head. This room design was all George. When we initially met, we only had the front building, A and B. I said to George, if you ever want to do something together, I'd love to, do that. And he said, well, I've had the perfect room in my head for 25 years. I went, let's build it. Come on. So we ended up getting this double lot. There are 6 studios in this building, and this one is a 10,000-page Excel spreadsheet created by George Massenburg based on primordial...
Prime number sequences.
Yeah. George's math gets over my head pretty quick. But basically, he's created a totally diffuse room. Sound hits these walls and breaks up and does not reflect back into the room. There are 138,646 pieces of 1 by 1 inch wood coming off the walls here. No two are the same length. What you're looking at is 1 inch thick formaldehyde-free MDF, which is a composite. Smells like wood, acts like wood. We hired a company here to cut all this wood, which they would never do again for the same price because it is hard and complicated. And it boiled down to we could do about 6 inches of wall a day. And I don't know how many feet we're looking at, but it was 6 months worth of work to get it all installed. There's between 80,000 and 100,000 pounds of wood on the walls. Mike Cronin invented this crazy I-beam concept. There's an I-beam that's in a solid concrete wall, and a lot of these sheets, I think, hook on the I-beam. It's crazy, really, but it works.
Well, George's collaborator on this room was a guy named Dr. Peter D'Antonio.
Yes.
And Peter D'Antonio, among other things, was a crystallographer for the Air Force for decades. You would wonder why the Air Force or the Department of Defense would hire crystallographers, but it's all about facets and how things reflect, say, off a diamond. And the reason that he was studying it and what they employed in here is basically stealth technology. So just in the way that you wouldn't want a radio wave to reflect off a plane in flight, that's why you have a stealth bomber that's multiple facets. Yes. And so it's really this is an outgrowth of that. But there's nothing like it. It is an amazing sounding room. And it's like George knew, maybe he did or saw that the immersive systems that are in here in his design, because there was already a framework to hang speakers from.
Yes.
And the room is symmetrical front to back, so you can have different systems in here. And it's been through a series of iterations. So
yes.
When he was first here, it was George and all the musicians in an open plan room, everybody recording together. But then eventually he moved to Montreal to be a professor.
Right.
And it became a mixed room. There was an enormous SSL in here.
Yeah.
And then it went through a rapid series of changes. So there was an 8K. So the 9K went to Dr. Dre.
Yes.
And then there was an 8K SSL, which got put in, they refinished the floor, and then they took it out and scratched the floor, as I recall.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you announced that it was going to be an Atmos room, and that was done in fairly short order by Pauly Simmons and the Dolby people.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
We went from not Atmos to Atmos. But it is a really incredible experience to come in here and critically listen to different mixes. This room is so good that when you're sitting here, you can point to a spot and you can put a sound that sounds like it's coming from exactly that spot.
It's sort of terrifyingly realistic.
Yes.
You actually think there are people in the room with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
I get to give a lot of tours of this room.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of speculation about Atmos and how it will do as a format, which is something we can talk about another time. But one of the things that really makes me think it does have a future, at least if they can translate something like this speaker experience to the way most people are listening, is the number of hardened, grizzled, cynical veterans that I brought in here and played them things in Atmos that have cried.
Yes.
And sometimes the more experienced ones are the ones who sort of lose it more emotionally. It's been really fascinating. This just happened a couple of weeks ago to the point where they can't really talk. And
yeah,
that sort of powerful emotional response is what motivates all of us to make music.
Yes. And listening in here is like therapy to me. It's just really an enjoyable experience. I love it.